Okay, we are learning Masechtas Yoma. We are on Hey Amid Beis. We are starting 5 lines down. Tana Rabbanan. Now, as an introduction, on the Shmini Miluim was Rosh Chodesh Nissan. So a few things were going on that day. Number one, the karbanos that Aaron HaKohen was bringing. It was Rosh Chodesh. So you have the karbanos of Rosh Chodesh, and the Nasi, Nachshon ben Aminadab, brought his karbanos on that day. Okay. There were 3 chatois brought. There were karbanas brought for the miluim. There were karbanas that had menachos along with them, as well as a Rosh Chodesh had a mincha that went along with it. So, generally speaking, Aaron HaKohen has specific things he's supposed to be eating as a kohen to eat part of the karbanas. Now, an onen, someone who loses a close relative before burial, is not allowed to eat kachim. We learned that out from Meiser. When you make your Meiser declaration, you say, Loi ba'oni, I didn't eat it when I was an onen, so kal v'chomer, if Meiser can't be eaten as an onen, then certainly kachim can't be eaten as an onen. There was a Hirasha, Moshe Rabbeinu told Aaron that he's meant, HaKadosh Baruch Hu told him that he is meant to eat the karbanas even though he's an onen. Now, Aaron understood this to mean only the karbanas that were Hirasha, that were specific for today, that were only for today. So that would be the miluim, and that would be that of the nasi, of nachshin. But the karban of Rosh Chodesh, which is a regular karban of Rosh Chodesh, that was not meant to be eaten. So Moshe didn't understand it like that. So he came with a taina to Aaron HaKohen. So we begin the brace like this. We have kichein suvesi, because this is what I was told, I was commanded. This was said regarding the mincha that comes along with the karbanas of the miluim. Moshe says, kichein suvesi, I was commanded that you should eat this. Kasher tzivesi, like I was commanded. This he was when he was telling Aaron that you should have eaten the karbanos of Rosh Chodesh as well. He said kasher tzivesi, and then when it comes to the la kasher tziva Hashem, is regarding the sheik hatruma and the chazeh hatnufa. It says kasher tziva Hashem, and that was correct. So the Gemara darshans these. The first one where it says kichein suvesi, like I was commanded ba'aninas yechlua, you should eat this ba'aninas. Okay. Kasher suvesi b'shas maisa amarlem. He said b'shas maisa, when he was disagreeing with Aaron's opinion, he said kasher suvesi. That was b'shas maisa. When he found look the first Rashi on the middle-sized lines in Rashi, he saw that they burned the serachatas. Who ser shorosh chodesh? Amrlam, he said to them, "Hey, dama, you didn't bring so there was nothing puzzle happened to this thing. You should have eaten it. Kasher tzuvesi, like I was commanded. Kasher tzuvesi, like I commanded you. B'mincha, when it came to the mincha, which he was taka commanded, shamati lechem. But so you should have just like I was commanded to the mincha. You should have eaten this as well. And on the last one, that was b'shas ma'isa. And then the last one, back to the Gemara, he says, then kasher tziva Hashem, like Hashem commanded, and this is not my own cheshbon. And I'm not saying it on my own. So back in the Rashi, 5 lines down, the white lines, Moshe actually made a mistake. It was only told to him by the mincha and the chaz of a sheik, b'ser shmini, b'ser nachshen, she'yukach shah, which are only kachim for that time. Aval serish chedesh, yukach derived, which is meant for the future generations. La yihuter la'onen. Those were not permitted for an onen. Gival. And the Rashi just brings the karbanos that we mentioned already. Okay. Now, why was this Gemara brought here? Why do we bring this brisa? Because it talks about kichein suvesi, which is a verse that we mentioned previously by Rav Ashi, which is where we know that the miluim were ma'akav. not the same kasher suvesi. Rashi points out, happens to be, it's just the same words, but it's not the same phrase. It's referring to different things. Okay. Zak dehel gemar weiter. Amar Reb Yosi bar Chanina. Reb Yosi bar Chanina says, Michnasayim ein kesuven beparsha. The Kohen wore, or Kohen Hedyot wore 4 begadim. They were a michnasayim. They wore a ketonas. Michnasayim were pants. The ketonas was a long robe. They had a hat, and they had an avnet, a belt. And in addition to that, the Kohen Gadol had 4 more begadim. He had a me'il, which was his blue shirt he wore on top of the ketonas, and he had an ephod. He had the choshen, and he had the tzitz. Okay. So now, the Michnasayim were the big dekuna. It was written in Parshas Tetzaveh, but we don't find it when Aaron HaKohen is told when Moshe is getting Aaron dressed, he's commanded to get them dressed, and when he's actually getting them dressed, it doesn't mention anything about Michnasayim. So the Gemara of Rabbi Yosef bar Chanina, Michnasayim ein kesuvim beparsha. They weren't written in the Parsha of Miluim. So maybe if the Kohen Gadol didn't wear Michnasayim during the 7 days of preparation for his avodah, he wasn't doing the avodah. He was just being mechunach in the avodah, and he was wearing his begadim. But maybe that wouldn't be ma'akev. Maybe it wouldn't be a problem because it's not written in the parsha. Michnasayim ein kesuvim beparsha. Says there kishu oimer when the pasuk says v'zeh hadavar asher ta'asa lehem lekadesh oisem lechahin lahavi ha'michnasayim v'asiras ha'efa. This zadavar, this is what you should do to them, to be mekadesh them, to prepare them to serve, is coming to include the michnasayim and the asiras ha'efa. There's a tenth of an asa. Every kohen, the Kohen Gadol every day would bring an asiras ha'efa, and every kohen on the day that he was inaugurated to serve the Beis Hamikdash brought an asiras ha'efa. So these were not mentioned in the Parshas Hamiluim, but Rabbi Yosi bar Chanina is saying no, that these were also done then as well. Well, says the Gemara, Bishlam Michnasayim. I understand how you can include from this pasuk Michnasayim, because Ksiva B'inyan the Begadim. It's written, the parsha before this was talking about the Big Day Kahuna in Parshas Tetzaveh. It's talking about the Big Day Kahuna. And then you have a pasuk that says, V'zeh hadavar. So Vav, the Vav is Ma'isiv al inauguration, including what we were talking about before. So we'll include this in addition to that. The 3 lines down, the very wide lines in Rashi, towards the end of the line, Vav Ma'isiv al inauguration, Hamidaber b'tzavos asiyas begadim. The previous parsha was discussing how you make these begadim, and you got to make these begadim. V'sham ksiv va'asa lehem mechlesevat. So that was in the parsha, and the vav of the zehadav being meisav. So I understand how that gets into the miluim. But what about asir seifa? Says the Gemara. Says the Gemara, where do we get asir seifa from? That the Kohanim had to bring a mincha when part of their chinuch during the miluim. Says the Gemara, we have exer shava. It says v'zeh carbon iron uvanam kasher yakrivu l'Hashem asir seifa, and it says here v'zeh hadavar shetasa lehem. So exer shava tells us that they had to bring this carbon as well. Great. Baruch Hashem, we're zeicha within 1 day of Lag BaOmer to have a memra from Rav Shimon bar Yochai. Zok tehilel Gemara. Am Rabbi Yochanan mishum Rav Shimon bar Yochai. Rabbi Yochanan says in the name of Rav Shimon bar Yochai, Minayin sha'af mikra parsha ma'akev. From where do you know that you actually have to read the parsha of the miluim during the miluim? Rashi says, Mikra Parshas Miluim Shenitztava B'Va'ata Tetzaveh Emar Lehem L'Tzibur Be'esrim V'Shloisha Ba'Adar. On the 23rd day of Adar, when they began the first day of the Miluim, Kisheschila Miluim, V'Kel Ha'Seid Al Pesach El Meid, you gathered all the Yidden together to the Pesach El Moed, Shnemar v'Tekal Ha'ida, v'Yemer Moshe Al Ha'ida, Zeh Hadavar Shetziva Hashem Lasis, u'Mikrois Halalu B'Asiyas HaMiluim B'Tzav Es Saharan. So Rashi says both Ata Tetzava and Parshas Tzav, where we talk about the miluim, was read to the Klal Yisrael then. Okay, so he wants to know, how do you know that was ma'akiv, and if he didn't do it, it would have been a problem. Says the Gemara, Talmud Loimar, the pasuk tells, "Vayomer Moshe El Ha'ida." Moshe says to the Eda, "Zeh hadavar." This is the thing Asher Tziva Hashem, that Hashem commanded. So it makes a drush on the word davar. Afilu dibur ma'akiv. Even the dibur is ma'akiv. Zeh hadavar. This thing means this dibur needs to be said as well. Now I must tell you, the amazing, it's wild that this is the drasha we're seeing from Shimrei Chai. Zeh hadavar teaches us that there needs to be dibur. I mentioned yesterday, I saw from a Yid of Daniel Barron on Aish.com on his article on Lag Ba'omer. Is a beautiful shtickle, but the nekuda that he says there is that, the word davar, an item, a thing, and the word dibur are the same sherish. So what's the shaykhis between a thing and dibur and speaking? So he says, because everything in the world has a message it's there to say. Every davar has a dibur. And he was saying how fire is fire. The fire is the idea of fire is that fire burns, it consumes, it turns everything that comes into it into energy. It takes whatever was inside that davar and expresses it. That's what fire represents: the ability to go inside, to discover the dibur that's in every davar. Okay. Apropos, we learned from Shimrei Chai that mikra is ma'akiv, because the zeh davar, you got to be able to get the dibur from the davar. Halfly. Okay, so like the more weiter. Okay, fact the Gemara. First we're on the light Ketzad Hilbishan. How did they dress the Kohanim during the miluim? Ketzad Hilbishan. How they did it? Whatever happened. Like, who cares? Why is that important to know? Or what significance is there? Whatever they did. Okay. The Gemara don't like the kasha. The Gemara says, 1 second. So the kasha really is Kate's Ella, rather. Kate's and Malbishon La'asalavai. Moshe, Aaron, his sons are going to come back. And Moshe is going to reinstate Aaron as, I guess, the Kohen Gadol, and his sons as Kohanim, being that he was their nifter. So their Mashiach is batal, and they'll have to be re-nimshach. So he's going to have to we're going to go through this again. So, La'asalavi, how are you going to dress them? So the Gemara says, La'asalavi nami. L'kashiyavu Aaron, Uvanavu Moshe, Imayim. So Moshe will be with them. He'll tell them exactly how it needs to be done. So why are we asking this question? Okay. Says the Gemara, Ela Ketzad Hilbishan. Now the kasha is, what was done? And I need to know that, says the Gemara, L'mizbar Kroi. I need to explain some pesukim. Okay. What's the difficulty? So the difficulty is as follows. In the parshas, in Va'ata Tetzava, when it's describing the miluim and how you're going to dress Aaron HaKohen and his sons, so the Gemara, the pasuk says like this. Take a look at the Rashi. Let's read this. 2, 4, 6, 8 lines from the bottom. Lemizbar Kroi. So there shouldn't be a contradiction between the pesukim. The bitzava in Parshas Va'ata Tetzava, when we're getting the tzivoy of the miluim, ksiv, it says v'chagarta oisam avnet. You will put a belt. This is Moshe. You will put a belt on them. Aaron ubanav. Mashma chagirosam shel av ubanam b'seder echad. The girding of the belt was done at the same time. That means they were all ready. Everybody was all dressed except for the belt. When it comes to the actual putting on the begadim in Parshas Tzav, it says, you put a belt on him, as he was getting dressed, he put on his belt. V'gamar, and he finishes. V'hilbishay kol mabushim. He puts on all the rest of his garments. V'acher kach hikr banav v'hilbishim. And then it says that they brought his sons and Moshe dressed them. V'lechagar Aaron banav v'asachas. Aaron and his sons did not do it together. So we have a stira here in the pesukim. Okay, so let's see what happens here. It says the Gemara. First one line, pligi, about 3/4 of the way down. Pligi ba b'nei Reb Chia v'Reb Yochanan. We have a machlokes, the sons of Reb Chia with Reb Yochanan. Chad Omar Aaron ve'acher kach banav. First it was Aaron, and afterwards, meaning Aaron got completely dressed, and then his sons were dressed completely. V'chad Omar Aaron ubanu b'vasachas. Aaron and his sons were done at the same time. Abai explains, Amar Abai, b'ksoines u'mitznafes, when it comes to the ksoines and the mitznafes, ksoines is like the long robe. Mitznafes is the hat. Kuli amalei pligi de Aaron ba'achach banav. Everybody agrees that it was first Aaron and then his sons. The bein b'tzava, bein ba'asiya, Aaron kadem. Because both in the tzava, in Parshas Va'ata Tetzaveh, and in the Kiyum, when they actually did it, Aaron was first, and then his sons. So now that means, Rashi points out, that it doesn't just mean the Ksenis and the Misafis. We're talking about all the Begadim. They put all the Begadim on. Why doesn't it mention the Mechnesayim? Because Rashi says, because the Mechnesayim was done before all of this. And then the Ksenis and the Misafis was the two Begadim that they shared, that everybody wore the same. And the avnet is what we're arguing about. So Abai says they both got dressed. The shayla is, Aaron came before his sons. And the shayla is like this. Ki pligi, what was the machlokes? Be'avnet. When was the belt put on? Man the Amar Aaron ve'acher kach banav, the one who says it was first Aaron and then his sons. That's because the pasuk says. This is the pasuk in Parshas Tzav. Vayacher oisoi be'avnet. They put a belt on him. V'hodaksiv, and then it says after Aaron finishes getting dressed and they dress his sons. Vayacher oisoi avnet. Then they put a belt on his sons. So it's clear that he goes with the miluim, with the Parshas Tzav. Uman da Amar Aaron uvan b'vasachas. One who says no, they both got completely dressed except for their avnet. And then the vasachas at the same time, they put on Moshe put a belt on both of them, on all of them. Because the pasuk says like that in Va'ata Tetzaveh v'chagarta oisam. You will put a belt on them. Okay, so now we got a problem. I mean that's beautiful. You explained it great, but what do you do? What does each one do with the other pasuk? The one who says that Aaron and his sons put a belt on at the same time. The Gemara will describe what that means in a minute. In fact, the pasuk says it says that he put him an avnet on him. And then it says he put a belt on them. So what are you going to do with the pesukim in Parshas Tzav, where it clearly says that they was done at different times? On top of Aleph, Avnei. You know what he says? That pasuk is coming to teach a very big halacha. That Avnei shel Kohen Gadol loizehu Avnei shel Kohen Hedyot. They had two different belts. Now, how different were they? Oh, very different. Aaron HaKohen's belt Avnei was shatnez. He had a linen, and he had tchelas, which is wool, and arguman. Okay. The belt of the Kohen Hedyot was just linen. So they were different belts. Ulaman, okay. So that's what he understands, why it says it separately, even though they put it on at the same time. But it says it in Parshas Tzav separately to tell you that they were actually different belts. Okay. Says the Gemara. Ulamanda Amar Aaron va'achach banav. The one says no, we look at the Tzav is the Iker, and it was first Aaron put on his avnet, and then his sons got dressed and put on their avnet. Vaksiv, I the pasuk in Parshas Tzav it says v'chagarta oisam avnet, that he put it on them together. It's going to teach you that avnet shel Kohen Gadol zehu avnet shel Kohen Hedyot. It's coming to tell you that they wore the same one. It was mamish the same one. So v'yachar I say avnet v'yachar oisam lamali. So then why does it say later on that they do it separately? Shema mina Aaron v'achar one to teach you that it was first Aaron put on the belt, they got dressed and put on the belt, and then his kids did it. So a big machlokes here. Machlokes meaning the machlokes in what the order is, meaning do they do it together or do they do it separately, is a machlokes in what was the belt of the Kohen Hedyot made out of. Was it the same belt as the Kohen Gadol with shatnez in it, or was it not? In fact, the Gemara, what does it mean to do bevasachas? Bevasachas means mishkan. How can Moshe put a belt on 5 people at the same time? It just means there was nothing else put on in between. Meaning, everybody got dressed. Moshe dressed Aaron HaKohen first, and then he dressed his sons, and then he put on their belt. Gewaldic. Okay, Atzlach Rabba, everybody.